Alright, so you've just finished downloading the Windows AIK and you want to start working with WIM images. One thing we can do to demonstrate WIM images is to build a Windows pre-installation environment ISO and loading it into a virtual machine. Now, Windows PE pre-installation environment is another component that comes in the AIK kit, and basically it allows you to develop your own customized version of this miniature operating system that boots into a command line, very much like the Windows 98 disk used to do. So you can boot it from a CD, USB, you can set up a Pixie network. There's lots of different ways that you can load this pre-installation environment, and then you'll have access to whatever tools you put on it and basic Windows command lines. So let's build a WinPE ISO and we'll see how WIM works in the process. So you've finished your installation. What you want to do now is go find where you installed your Windows AIK files. In my case, it's in Program Files and it's in Windows AIK. And there's a folder in here called Tools. We want to open that. And basically in this folder called PE Tools, there's a batch script that basically sets up a little workbench for you. It's a file that contains a nice structure to start building your PE image. So what I like to do is come up here, just copy the path, and if you saw in that folder, there are different architecture types. So you want to select the correct architecture for the systems you want. And in this case, mine is going to be x86. And then you just need to supply the folder. So we're going to call this one WinPE, and I'm just going to put it right off of the root to make it easier. And when I run this, it's not going to work because I forgot to supply the batch. So let's do that. 86:/WinPE. Okay, so when you run it and it works, it copies a whole bunch of files and it adds ImageX, CD image, and PE image. These are tools that we use. ImageX is the one that you saw before. That's the one we're going to start working with. So let's look at this workbench real quick. WinPE. We have this ISO folder, which is where all the files are pre-configured, and any additional files that you want added to the ISO that we create, they can be put in here. There's a mount folder which contains nothing now, but when you mount a WIM image to it, it will contain the contents of that WIM image, but you don't have to use that folder. It's just a guide. This is a boot image that we supply when we're building our ISO files, and this is WinPE. This is our first encounter with a WIM image, and basically this is the small operating system that loads to a DOS screen. So let's build our ISO that will load WinPE in a virtual machine. So we got to come back to the command line, and let's first look at what's inside of that WIM image. So we're going to use ImageX, and because it's in our path right now, we can just call it. Otherwise, we would have to go back to the tools folder in the AIK tree. That's not what we want. Right, so ImageX, and we're going to mount read writable, and we're going to give it the WIM image. So WinPE.WIM. we need to give it one of the means of identification. So if I knew the index name, I could supply the name here, but I just know that it's one image inside there and it's the first one, so I just put 1 and use the index number, and then I just give it a directory that I want it to mount to. So since they provided me a mount directory, I'll just use that one. So now it's mounting that WIM image to that folder, and it will be populated with the contents of that WIM image. And it's just a little bit of a waiting game here now. So this will allow us to work interactively with the files and the structure inside of that WIM image, just as a simple mouse click away as soon as it finishes. I don't have the best system, so we're just gonna have to wait this one out. Okay, so this mount folder now contains stuff, and it's basically, it looks like any C drive. We've got program files, users. This is the mini windows. So let's add something to this just to prove we can do it. I'm just going to copy my lots of crap folder, so there's lots of crap too, and I've just added a file to my WIM image. So now let's back out of that. If you are inside of a mount directory viewing it in a Windows form, when you try to commit the changes, it can cause a dirty unmount, and it's just easier to not do that, so try to remember that. Now we're going to unmount that image and commit the changes. So unmount, give it the mount directory, and tell it to commit, or else you will be unhappy with the results. So this is now adding those contents to the WinPE image. Unmounting the folder. This is where the cleanup process would have a problem if you had the window open. So now there's nothing in there, and we have a newly created WinPE.WIM.